Welcome everyone to topic 7, and this topic is on the urinary system. Yes, of course, we are going to learn about the formation of urine and how it's excreted. But in this first part, we're going to learn about the major structures of the urinary system and the functions of the urinary system as well, and in particular the kidneys. It's not all about the formation of urine. They have lots of other roles to play in the body, and they are really, really important organs in maintaining homeostasis. And so by the end of this recording, you should be able to list the major organs of the urinary system, be able to name the major nitrogenous wastes and state their sources, be able to outline the functions of the urinary system, and then be able to describe the anatomy and functions of the kidneys and their placement in the body. Name and describe the structures and functions of the nephron and its parts. And finally, be able to, outline or describe the circulation in the kidneys in general, and also in this little capillary bed that's actually responsible for the first step of urine formation, which is glomerular filtration, and this network of 2 to 3 million capillaries that are evenly distributed across the right and left kidney do all of this work for us. And so we are going to describe the circulation in the glomerulus as well. So by way of introduction, the urinary system is just amazing, and in particular those two kidney bean shaped organs being the kidneys that work so hard to produce urine, to really fine tune the volume and concentration of urine that's produced to regulate lots of things in the blood. So the urinary system is the blood's elegant waste management system. And in total, its components are the 2 kidneys, the 2 ureters, the 1 bladder, and the 1 urethra. Now, what do the kidneys do? Well, as I mentioned, I have an absolute fascination for the kidneys, and I hope that at the end of this topic you will as well. So the kidneys are constantly filtering blood, removing toxins, removing excess substances. If you've taken a tablet or something this morning, or just before you're listening to me, you've had a Nurofen or an aspirin or something, they all get excreted through the kidneys. And of course, the kidneys produce urine. This urine then travels through tubes, the ureters, to the bladder, which is a storage tank, until then being, ready to be released to the exterior through the urethra. Now, what I really want you to get through this topic is, how much the kidneys do. And as I mentioned, their major function is excretion of urine, but they do lots of other things as well. So I really want you to have at the end of this topic a newfound appreciation for what the kidneys do and the intricate way in which they go about this that help us, to thrive, keep us alive and well. So it's not all about urine production. The kidneys do other things as well. So they regulate blood volume, blood pressure, acid-base balance, so blood pH, red blood cell production, and vitamin D synthesis as well, or calcitriol. Pretty amazing, right? For those 2 little organs that, they're pretty tiny. They're 12 centimeters long. They're about 8 centimeters wide, 5 centimeters thick. And while, they can weigh less or more from individual to individual, usually somewhere between 125 to 175 grams. Another way of kind of thinking about that, it might be a bit less, might be 75 grams up to 200 grams. So somewhere between 1 tennis ball and 4 tennis balls, and gender differences as well. So, okay, we're going to get stuck into this, everybody. Get ready to explore the wonders of the urinary system. And I hope that it's a journey that you will always remember. And once you get the idea of how urine is formed and excreted, and you do further subjects in your course, you might even get to learn about how, diuretics manipulate the urinary system to lower things like blood pressure or treat things like heart failure. So this slide is just showing you the major organs of the urinary system. Of course, here we have our right and left kidneys. The chief functions of these are to, filter blood and form urine. We have then the two ureters, which you can also see there. And these are tubes that, take the urine from the kidneys to the urinary bladder, right? The urinary bladder then is a reservoir or a storage tank, and it's flexible. So it can, expand and then, empty as well. And the urethra then, there's only one of them, and it expels urine from the body permanently. We'll get to those sort of latter structures later on. So what about the functions of the urinary system? Okay, so I'm repeating a couple of things here because it's important that you get all of this. So formation of urine, and we're going to go through the 3 steps of formation of urine in the next recordings. We're going to be talking about filtration, we're going to be talking about tubular reabsorption, and we're going to be talking about tubular secretion. Okay, so that's the first main function. The second one then is regulation of blood volume and blood pressure by conserving water or eliminating it in the urine. So when you are in a situation where you haven't taken much water on board, your fascinating, amazing kidneys can excrete low volumes of water with, high solute concentration. And then in other situations, when you've taken on, liters and liters of water, your kidneys also have the ability to excrete all of that high volume diluted urine. Remember, that the kidneys secrete that enzyme renin, and that enzyme then helps to increase blood pressure by activating the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, pathway or mechanism, whatever you want to call it. Now, we have talked about that before, but we're going to talk about it again in this system. The urinary system or the kidneys are also involved in the concentration of blood solutes, so important in regulating the osmolarity of the blood. And the kidneys help to regulate the blood levels of lots of different ions, so sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, and phosphate as well. We'll get to that too later. The kidneys are also involved in the regulation of the pH of the blood or the plasma. And the kidneys have the ability to secrete and excrete excess hydrogen ions. If the blood gets a little bit too acidic, those hydrogen ions can be excreted in urine. And also have the ability to reabsorb bicarbonate anions from the filtrate, which is a word that's used for the forming urine. So before we call it urine, we call it filtrate. And the kidney cells have the ability to reabsorb bicarbonate from that filtrate back into the blood, right? Again, if your blood becomes a little bit too acidic. So it will, bind to those hydrogen ions in the blood. Blood cell synthesis is another function, right, through the production and secretion of that hormone erythropoietin or EPO. We've talked about that before as well, where the biggest sort of stimulator of that is low oxygen levels will cause the secretion of EPO, and it will then act on the bone marrow to increase the production of red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. And finally, if you didn't think that was enough, there's another function here, which is the synthesis of active vitamin D, otherwise known as calcitriol. So remember, active vitamin D, first step due to UV exposure of the skin. Second step in the formation of active vitamin D occurs in the liver. And the final step here occurs in the kidneys. And what does calcitriol do? Well, it promotes absorption of calcium from the gastrointestinal tract. And it's one hormone that's involved in regulating calcium homeostasis. Remember, we talked about parathyroid hormone as well, and also calcitonin. Urine does contain nitrogenous wastes, and these are wastes that contain nitrogen, right? I will talk about the composition of urine in a bit more detail later on, but for now, the 3 main nitrogenous wastes are urea, uric acid, and creatinine. Okay, urea is formed from the breakdown of ammonia. Ammonia is produced from protein breakdown, and it is very toxic in the human body, and it can lead to something called ammonia intoxication. The brain is particularly sensitive to increasing levels of ammonia. So here's where the liver comes in, and it converts it to a less toxic substance known as urea. So ammonia, therefore, is rarely detected in fresh urine and when the liver is functioning normally. And urea itself is the most abundant nitrogenous waste. Then we also have uric acid, and uric acid is produced by the breakdown of nucleic acids, and in particular those purines. Okay, uric acid and high levels of uric acid are linked to an inflammatory condition known as gout, where that uric acid, precipitates in joints to stimulate inflammation. And people who are susceptible to gout have to watch particular foods that they eat, say like anchovies and mackerel and peas and beans, and also beer as well. So that's the second one, uric acid. And the third one then is creatinine. And creatinine is formed from creatine phosphate catabolism, which is found in skeletal muscle.